Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a discussion video today. So I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for the best part of a year, I think, which is an idea and a concept of like a new mechanic, or kind of like an inspiration really from older mechanics that we've had when it comes to the defensive side of Vanguard and trying to increase the overall defensive creep of the game, since I do think we've reached a point now to where power and pressure has now become pretty concerning. We've started to see a few more iterations on like guard restricting. There's been obviously plenty of units where like they can gain crits. More decks can multi-attack now, stuff like this. It got me thinking more so about like the defensive side of the game, because Bushiroad have made effort with this. Of course, we have like blitz orders where you can get extra shield value. Defensing Roar comes to mind for like Dragon Empire, and then more so generic stuff. We have like Twin Cast, of course, which I think plenty of decks were playing that last year. I know I was, but when it comes to defensive creep in Vanguard, it's quite difficult, because even though you've got these like blitz orders and you've got units as well where Bushiroad made the dual beasts, where they could be 20k shields or like have a generic effect which would be somewhat useful for most decks to use. We also have the rainbow cycles, which just recently came into the game, where they can give you a 10k shield blitz order for the early stages. So if your deck can't fit in the gun cycles for the draw, maybe the shield can be something to help, stem the bleeding a little bit in the early game. So these are all good and all, but the main issue these all have in relation to each other is that they all require main deck space. And that's one of the issues of Vanguard, is that because decks are usually quite tightly packed with, of course, just over a third of your deck is your triggers. You've got your 16 triggers, you've got your 4 perfect guards, you've got your ride line, and you're going to have like your core engine of the deck in terms of the units that you want to play, regardless of anything else. So like, for example, for my MLB deck, I'm always going to have my Blaster Darks, I'm always going to have my Emmelines. So these are other dedicated slots that you need to fill in, basically, which makes you have little to no space really for flexibility to put in cards that are just purely for defense. There needs to be something with them to help benefit your strategy, which is where I think the Jewel Beasts were probably the closest they've came to being good enough. But again, some of the Jewel Beasts were better than others. Like the Keta one was really good just because it was a top 5 check to call something, which is great. But the Dragon Empire one is just draw a card. So it's like, it's not really getting you to places as much than the Keta one is. Like the Keta one can help you see a very important piece of your deck, whereas just drawing a random card is just like, whatever, The Rainbow Cycle I feel like is pretty good. Obviously it's better in some strategies than others, since of course it requires soul, and perhaps it's just not as important as it is to say like draw a card from the gun cycle, basically, if you have access to those. So basically, to get into the main point of the video, I know we're already 4 minutes in now, I had this concept, an idea of looking back at the older mechanics that we used to have in Vanguard, like G Guardians for G Series and the Heal Guardians for V Series. Is there something that we could create for the D Series that looks back at these mechanics and implements them in some way for us to use to increase the defensive capabilities that we have? Because like I said, the main deck space is already a bit of a awkward placement to put defensive stuff in, unless it benefits the deck as well in terms of what you're doing. I feel like if we take inspiration from like the G Guardians to where it was just a separate deck on its own. So hypothetically, let's just call this the shield deck, okay? So bear with me. Now, G Guardians could only be accessed by discarding a heal trigger. So what if we just say you can access a shield unit by discarding any trigger, and then you get different benefits depending on the type of trigger that you discard. So let's say if you discard a heal trigger, you maybe get like amped up shield value. You get more defense, more shield, block a bigger attack, right? But what if, say, you discard a crit? Now, of course, with crits, they're more likely to see, because you're going to have more crits usually than your heals. Maybe you just have a slight increase to shield, like, you know, the old G units where they just gained like 5k shield or something, you know, like the first iteration of G Guardians that we had. Maybe just a slight ramp in shield, except like not like a potent one like a heal trigger would give you. Something like that. Of course, with draw triggers and front triggers, these are going to be quite different because we already have defensive draws and fronts in the game already. But what if we do something different with them? Maybe a draw trigger could give you a benefit, like the old Cray Elemental from G series, where if it's used, you can discard a card to draw a card. Maybe that could be a concept. And then the front trigger, we could just, you know, take the idea of like, well, because front triggers are already 20k shield with the skill ones, what if we just like use the front skill, the front effect to be like power to your front row units, basically, to make them all protected. I don't know, something like that. You can kind of see where I'm going with this, hopefully. But then I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is if you increase the defense of every deck in the game, it doesn't particularly change anything. You're just making the already good decks harder to kill now. So this is where I want to talk about taking inspiration from the V series mechanic of the Heal Guardians, where they had extra benefits if you went second. So if you haven't rolled grade 3 yet, you've got some very powerful utility. You could either minus crit from your opponent's units, effectively making it not being able to hit you, in most cases anyway. And then you also had the power increase, which is probably the closest to like a front trigger, but it was like everlasting power. So you'd use this to guard for 15, get 10k, and then it was a 25k guard effectively, but then you also kept that power increase until the end of turn, which made it harder for your opponent's other attacks to then hit you. So that was also pretty cool. So yeah, I feel like something where if a shield unit is used, if you haven't rolled grade 3 yet, it could perhaps be amplified to be even more powerful to defend against your opponent's grade 3 turn. But I'm not too sure in that. But I do feel like there needs to be some benefit for the player going second, because like I said, if you just increase the shield of all decks, you don't change a whole lot. You just make the already good decks harder to kill now. So yeah. I also think it could be interesting from a player and shop perspective, because you have to think, we already have such a wide plethora of triggers available, from all different artworks to, you know, different skills already that we have, like the heal triggers, for example. We already have heal triggers with skills, but they're so they're so specific to the scenario that they're used in. If you go against a deck where the skill's not useful, then you've effectively just took away shield value if you weren't just playing the generic heal, right? So it's like, it's a bit awkward. But what if we created a shield unit that says, like, if you discard a trigger that has no skill in it, right? Because I know with draws in fronts as well, you've got the draw in the front that have the shield skill, but then you've also got loads of other triggers for draws and fronts that don't have skills. What if you create a, you know, and the same thing goes with a crit. You've got the crit with the skill in it, and you've got crits without skills. What if you create a shield unit that has a benefit if you use a vanilla trigger? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like that could be something to look at. as an experimental thought. But yeah, it's now I do know that they've obviously they've brought out new triggers recently with like the front trigger that goes into your soul. So that's a new type of form of skill that you can have, but obviously with those they don't have any power on them as well, so that's kind of a weird thing, but I kind of get it, but not. But I really feel like Bushiroad could do something with the trigger system as a whole, that they could create some shield deck or like a shield unit that you could access to help, you know, fight against the ever-growing power creep that the game naturally gets as more and more sets come out. You know, we see more and more powerful effects. And I especially think it would be helpful, you know, if we're going to go down the road of guard restricting effects, having the ability to block these guard restricts could also be more helpful as well. Because, you know, not every deck is going to have access to a Blitz Order. I know that everything has Elementaria usually, but, you know, that's a one-of in the deck. You can't always guarantee you'll have access to it when you need it. But it's nice that you do have it, but I do feel like we need to have a bit more. So I'm going to leave it here because I feel like I've said enough in terms of where my thoughts are at the minute, in terms of where I kind of want Bushiroad to experiment with the defensive side of the game and what they can do there. And I do feel like now is a good time to be thinking of this because, I mean, we're probably going to be going into another chapter in the D series because I don't know if they're going to do another DivineZ season after this one. As far as I'm aware, they haven't announced that yet. But it feels like they are because all the characters are kind of like looking to the future now and what they're going to do. But we'll just have to see where they go with that. But anyway, I feel like I've yapped on enough. Hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. And do share your thoughts below with what you think they could do to help increase the defense of the game. Since I do think it would be very much accepted now, don't you think? But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This is Guardian, signing out.